The charge of genocide leveled against Israel is not only false, it's outrageous, and decent people everywhere should reject it.
South Africa has filed a case based upon Article 9 of the Genocide Convention of 1948. Some states can be brought before the International Court of Justice because they've made a general declaration recognizing the jurisdiction of the court. But this is not the case both for South Africa and for Israel. On the other hand, more states have accepted the jurisdiction of the court for specific issues. And they do that because there's a provision in a particular treaty that means a dispute about that treaty can come before the court. And so Israel and South Africa have both accepted this, and that opens the door to this case. But the case is confined to the allegation of genocide, so that if South Africa were to succeed in proving that crimes against humanity or war crimes have been committed or other violations of international law, that wouldn't be relevant, that wouldn't apply. They have to score with proof of genocide in order to succeed with the case. To date, there have been, I think, 15 applications to the International Court of Justice that have either been, most of them have been dismissed on technical grounds, and 2 of them have been rejected based on what we call the merits. In other words, the party that was suing didn't succeed in proving the case. So the convention has been a bit of a failure, really, before the International Court of Justice in terms of states using it to enforce international law and to promote accountability. So this is really a big test for the court. This is a test for the court and a test for the convention. I think that if South Africa fails to win the case against Israel, there probably won't ever be another application at the court based on the Genocide Convention, because it will establish the absolute impossibility of proving such a case. So it's very important in terms of the usefulness of the Genocide Convention and the accountability of states for the crime of genocide. The International Court of Justice doesn't really enforce its judgments. It doesn't have that authority. It's not the fault of the court. That's the system that was created by the Charter of the United Nations. So it can issue a judgment, but then it depends on political mechanisms for the enforcement of the judgment. So the political mechanisms at the international level are the Security Council, which is unlikely to be helpful because of the veto by the United States, unless there's some dramatic political change there. The other bodies in the United Nations are less effective in terms of enforcement mechanisms. They don't have the teeth to be able to enforce a decision. I'm talking about the General Assembly, the Human Rights Council, and so on. There are regional institutions that might apply, but to Israel, there's no other alternative there. And there are domestic remedies in domestic courts of various countries that might find a way to apply a judgment to change the situation under domestic law, which could include a seizure of assets, freezing of assets, and similar mechanisms. The court can make a broad range of orders, including financial compensation. This is what has been requested, and that could be ordered against Israel. And the sums could be, quite eye-watering in terms of the scale of it. So definitely it can make very reasonable, practical orders against Israel, but the enforcement cannot be ensured by the court. It depends largely on international mechanisms in order to do it. But it might, for example, support arguments calling for sanctions on Israel by bodies like the European Union and so on.